Welcome back to the channel, guys. This is VIN0363, VIN363. This is a 2016 083, which is ultra white with LA20 interior. Popped up at a BMW dealer in Wichita Falls, Texas, which is kind of northwestern Texas, right before the Panhandle starts. And it popped up here in the middle of October of 2025. One of these call for price photos coming soon. I waited around a couple days before doing this video and they still don't have anything. I've contacted the dealer, the same spiel. We have this available. We see you're interested. Where would you like me to send the videos and the photos? And I said, send them to me email. Never hear anything back. It's like they don't want to sell this car. And you know, it's unfortunate that you have to deal with some of this stuff with some of these dealers, but you know, if I were a serious buyer right now wanting to buy this car, making an effort to try to get some photos and some information, they're not really that in a hurry to provide it. And so that aside, we'll jump into the rest of it here, but that just was kind of a turn off to me, but you know, your mileage may vary. It looks like this car is a California and Texas car its entire life. Started in California and it's been in Texas around the Wichita Falls area for the last several years. Wichita Falls is a little northwest of Dallas-Fort Worth area, not too far. From where I'm at here in East Texas, it's about a 5-hour drive. If it was a little bit closer, I'd probably be apt to go drive out there and go take a look at it for you guys, but a little bit far for me. First and foremost, production, 648 out of the 2,348 cars produced for the US, 49 that I've identified were ultra white. Of those 648, 267 have the LA20, which is the black interior with the standard carbon fiber trim. So this is one of 267 that was produced over the 5 years. It is the second most common color, the most common color being white with red interior. This is white with black interior. Specific for 2016, 371 out of the 1,418 cars that I've identified were ultra white. Of those 371, 149 had black interior. So very common as far as GSF combinations go. The majority of them that you see pop up for sale are either white or black, 54% of the cars. So one of 149 that exist at its rarest. Carfax, Epic VIN, and AutoCheck. So Carfax shows this as a 2-owner, 1-accident car, and it does show minor damage, but it doesn't get into any further details. Epic VIN shows this as a 2-owner, no-accident car, and AutoCheck shows this as a 2-owner, no-accident car. So Carfax is the only one that caught the accident on this car. So previous sales, December of 2015, this car went on sale for $87,000 in California. The next time it popped up for sale was December of 2018, $53,000 with 17,000 miles in Texas. And now it's for sale October of 2025 for question mark price with 61,000 miles here in Texas. So this is normally where I would show you the photos and go over the photos, things that I find, but there are none. And this is one of those cars. There's a couple hundred cars that I don't have any prior sales photos or anything of, and this is one of those. So I don't have anything to go on. But of course, do the usual things. Look at the carbon fiber trim. Look at the carbon fiber piece on the front bumper. Look at for any other things that are very obvious, but does it have paint protection film? Look at the interior, look at the bolster wear, look at just the surfaces that are touched. The usual things you would look at on these cars and for most used cars in general. So onto the price. I can give you a range of where I would expect this dealer to probably price it and based on where the market is for a 10-year-old, well, almost 10-year-old GSF with 61,000 miles, clean title with an accident. Cars with accidents, you pretty much have to adjust downward about 5 to 6%. That's basically where the market has spoken for cars that have at least, well, that have one accident. And so that is this car. I would put this car in, and there's a wider range than I would normally give, 45,000 to about 52 or 53,000. And so if it's extremely clean and it needs nothing, then 52, 53, not unreasonable. If it has some issues, it needs some work, it needs tires, brakes, things like that, then maybe in the upper 40s, mid to upper 40s, something like that. And so that's probably where I would put this car, 45 all the way up to about 52 or 53. Pretty big range, highly dependent on condition. But I think if I was out shopping right now, I'd probably give 50 grand for it if it's pretty clean. And so that remains to be seen. So now onto the service history. The car is very well dealer serviced, and it's also, there are some other services outside of the dealership at a Toyota dealer that I see on the Carfax things like that fairly recently, and I'll get into that here after I go through the Lexus dealer service. So the first injury of note is April of 2018. The JLB recall was done. That's the high pressure fuel pumps. And there was a note about checking the left rear undercarriage. They hit some debris and they found no damage. March of 2020, the KLG customer service program was performed. That is the GPS update. It's also known as the 19LE05. Basically, if you're driving, the position of your GPS doesn't show correctly. So if you're on the main road, it'll show you off to the side or something like that. That's done, common issue on these cars, and it's addressed. November of 2022, at 47,000 miles, the front and rear brakes were done. So this car has about 15,000 miles on the brakes. Good to see. That would also mean that probably the front pads are getting towards the end of their life, but probably not needing replacement just yet. So I would probably put money for front pads and maybe rotor resurfacing if there's any life left. Otherwise, replace the front pads and rotors probably in the next 10 to 15,000 miles or less. January of 2024, at 53,000 miles, the 60,000 mile service was done. So that is including the spark plugs and everything else. Great to see that's done. That is not an inexpensive service, and it was done at the dealer. And the last service at the dealer was October of 2024 at 55,000 miles. The 65,000 mile service. So they're servicing it early, and that's great to see as well. And actually, I don't see a lot of these where it's serviced ahead of schedule, but this is one of them, so very well. So on the Carfax, March of 2025 at 58,000 miles at a Toyota dealer, 4 new tires and an oil change. So that's just a couple thousand miles ago. So it's probably due for like another oil change, and that's really about it. So this car, fairly recently, all new brakes, all new tires, the 60,000 mile service is done. The high pressure fuel pump recall is done. I don't see where the low pressure fuel pump has been reprogrammed, so that is something to look out for. But it looks pretty well sorted, pretty well serviced, where you would just have to look at the common issues that these cars have. And if it has none of those, you're golden. And I see no red flags for this car otherwise. The minor accident, do the usual, just kind of look around, make sure everything looks like it fits right, the panel gaps, things like that. But I don't see anything about the valley plate being done, so put some money aside for that. The ZLZ, which is still covered for 10 years from the in-service date, which is here in a couple months. So that covers the cracking, delaminating, sticky dash, anything like that. Lexus will cover it out of their pocket, not yours, 10 years from the in-service date. So you're getting really close on this car for being out of that coverage, and it has not been done. So if you look at this car, press on the dash, feel if it even feels the slightest bit sticky, Lexus will replace it for you. Lower control arm bushings, front lower control arm bushings, as always. Look at the insides of the front tires, make sure there's no excessive wear. Because it has new tires within the last 3,000 miles, you may not be able to see anything like that, but that is something of note. I don't see anything about the HVAC servo sweep, which is set the heat and cold on opposite sides on max, and then reverse, but also go through the defrost, the head, the feet, the rear, cycle through all of it and make sure everything responds like it should. If it doesn't, that could be an expensive service, just kind of sitting there hiding. And as always, look at the carbon fiber trim on the inside. Make sure it's not delaminating. If it is, you can either send it off to get refinished, or you can replace it. That's the more expensive option. Just looking at the service history and everything, it looks well sorted, it looks well serviced. New tires, new brakes, 60,000 mile service is done. It looks ready to go. And so as far as looking for cars, this has the potential to be a great one, as long as when you actually see photos of it, it's not completely trashed, worn bolsters, things like that. But it looks like from the outside looking in that it has a great potential to be one of the great ones to go after. Even though it has an accident on the Carfax, I would still go after this one versus some of the others that you've seen pop up that have, questionable service history or 16 alignments in the last 50,000 miles or something like that. It's just, this one, it looks well sorted. So it's definitely worth going and checking out. So anyway, that's all I've got for you guys. VIN 363. So unless they price it at $60,000 or something, I would think this would definitely be worth checking out. So thanks again for watching. We'll see you soon.